Hey, this is Kirk.
And this is Byrd. It's the Kirk and Byrd Show. And we are here going to discuss our 757 high school football review and preview. So we're joined today by someone you've already seen on the show with Randy Pearson. Randy is a former Crabber and Virginia Union standout All-American, and has sons that play for Oscar Smith. And then we also got Coach Beverly, William Beverly. William is a Bethel Bruin. We shared the backfield together for a couple of years. Same birthday, all right, 11-4. And then, we won't say the year. And William went on to play at Virginia Union, had an outstanding career. They were ballers when Union was at the tip top of some of the greatest football teams. And then William has also been in coaching and was the head coach, coached in a lot of programs, the head coach at Bethel, and he's done a lot of great things, put a lot of kids in college and got kids in the league. But just also, we talk about both of these guys in their impact on youth football. We might even have to do a whole nother show on that, but I know Coach Bev has been extremely active in that area and blessed a lot of folks. But welcome to the show, guys.
Thank you.
Thanks for having me.
Great to have you guys. All 87. And this show has made me the most OWB I've been since 87. That's only white boys. So, but we want to ask everybody out there.
Kirk, I will say this again. Your skin might look white, but you was the only white dude on the Phoebus basketball team. So you had to have some game, and you must have had.
It's like being on the bus again.
Had to get some cool points for that. Like Rex Chapman, his game.
All right, everybody down there in Hampton, Newport News, York County, Williamsburg, Suffolk, Chesapeake, 7 cities, Norfolk, Virginia Beach, et cetera, et cetera. Please subscribe to us. We'll live if you don't. For you older folks that are worried about your privacy, do it on your phone. You don't have to give away your identity. But so huge fan base. Everybody in the 757 is so much more crazier about high school football than, quite frankly, the rest of the state. So we want to jump right to it. And then we're probably going to get in Rusty some background. You know, both these guys played at Union, and we were talking about, you know, people we know. But let's get up to date. So the big dogs in the state is Oscar Smith, undefeated, will probably be the #1 seed. And then let's talk about Oscar Smith. Let's talk about the South Side. In 5, we've got Maury, we've got Green Run. They usually come out of that region. And then we've got some
Kempsville
is Woodside, Kempsville. And then 4, you've got Kings Fork. The Crabbers having a down year, but there's some really good 4 teams that are going to bump up against probably a great Verina. And then at 3, we've got Phoebus defending state championships. And Coach Bev was the principal at Phoebus, has been a head coach. Randy's been close to Smith for a long time. Randy's, you're in the Norfolk Public School System. So, Randy, were you at the Smith game on Friday night?
No, I wasn't. I was actually Randall actually was home. So he but my youngest, he's playing JV. He's kind of on IR right now. But he was at the game though, too. You know, they played Hickory. And you know, it was, 74-6 or 74-13, so it was, they did what they were supposed to do. I tell people, and actually, I'm kind of active on the group that a lot of us are in.
Yeah.
Somebody made a real true statement. They said that if you're going to get Smith, you need to get him this year. Now, that's not saying that Smith is not ready to play.
A lot of underclassmen.
Yeah, a lot of underclassmen. The JV they're still rolling it. I don't think they lost in like some years. And then it's a lot of underclassmen. The most experience that Smith has is on the offensive line. The only person that left offensive line with the experience was my son. Everybody else came back.
Wow.
So they are definitely up front on the offensive side of the ball. They're definitely, experienced. And a couple of those guys were they were sophomores when we had that spring. So they have a lot of experience. Now on the defensive side of the ball, it's just the opposite. Everybody's first year, but they'll get after you, though. So, yeah.
Yeah, I know. We were just talking about this on the Prince William show, and Jay Golson comes up with his theories about why Freedom will win the state championship. But one of the things he talks about is Smith. I don't know if you guys have settled in on your quarterback situation, but one of the things I said is it doesn't matter who's the quarterback. If y'all need to, that quarterback, all you need somebody to hand the ball off and get out the way.
Well, you know, right now, what I've seen Coach Scott do, you know, the times that I have seen him, because they are using a 2 to 3 quarterback system right now. I think Coach Scott has been kind of, you know, still kind of weighing who's he going to be sold on, you know, but the number 3, I think his number is number 3. And then there's the kid from last year. I forget his name too, number 14, I think it is, whatever. But I think he's kind of leaning towards the number 3 kid. You know, that kid's he's tough. He's slim. He reminds you, they have the stature of Ethan that we have for the last few years. They have the same stature. They're not quite as thick as Ethan, but you know, they had that number 3. He's got some toughness about him, and he's not afraid to get after you. You know, and but he's a little slimmer, but he's tough though. So I think they're settling in. You know, this week's gonna be a big week for us because we're starting to get into the heart of the schedule now.
Indian River.
Indian River.
So,
Yeah.
So we didn't just get these 2 PD legends on to talk about just PD. But I want to give you the perspective. Randy is on the South Side, Sun Play for us. So he is going to be our South Side expert, but he knows all 757. And then we got Coach Bev, who's going to really give us that peninsula side of the water. He coached there, he played there, he lives there, and he's got a lot of perspective. And it's not just the Peninsula District. He knows about, I know you know about Middlesex. He knows about Tab, York, all those. So on this side of the water, on our side, the best side, but Coach Bev,
used to be, don't count anymore.
Look, we know Phoebus, another defending state champion, is kind of running the Peninsula District. But is there anything you want to talk about that you've noticed this year, or even about Phoebus in there and how they're doing? But I know our school, hold on, Bethel, we got a win on homecoming, 48-0 over Denby. So you can start there, the 2, that's fine.
Yeah, that's where I like to start. I did have opportunity, and once again, thank y'all for having us, man. I went to, we had our homecoming, 35th anniversary as well, Rusty. You know, so happy anniversary, 35 years.
Yeah, man.
High school. And so I did. I went to the game, and you know, Denby right now is in a bad place as far as their numbers and their program. And I will tell you, I know the head coach at Denby. He was the JV coach for a long time, maybe 10 years at Woodside, Coach Stewart. It's one of my fraternity brothers, good guy, really believes in what he's doing and believes in the kids. So they'll return. I say what's going on right now with everybody throughout the state, and it's affected more than others, is COVID. At that game, visibly, you could see how small the kids look because they've been removed from the weight room for 2 years. So if you take someone that when COVID hit, you know, around, they were in the 9th grade and they didn't have a weight or strength training program from 9th grade of March until their 11th grade year. You know, this summer was the first time they were able to get back in the weight room. It shows up. So both teams, they look small. The Bethel look a little bit, you know, larger than Denby, but it's affected some teams more so than others. Coach Stewart over at Denby had just started to build the program. So when COVID hit, it really hit him because he didn't have an established program. Bethel just changed coaches again. So once again, Coach Porter is building the program, just getting into the weight room and all those things. Bethel's coming back. They'll be back. I believe in what Coach Porter is doing. He's just come from the college level. He spent a while over at the apprentice school. He actually used to come and recruit when I was the head coach at Bethel. And then he took another job as a recruiter with a school up north. I'm not exactly sure of the name, but he wasn't actively on campus because he was working here, but he was doing recruiting. So I believe in what he's doing. What's really important with Coach Porter is he's in the building. So you know, to have a head football coach that's in the building means a lot. So he's able to touch those kids, able to channel that energy, you know, Monday morning to make sure those kids are doing what they need to do. The yes sirs, the no ma'ams, the yes ma'ams, the little things that you need to build a solid foundation. So I really believe in what Coach Porter is doing. And he was a part of the last time that Bethel really has started to sustain wins, which when Jeff Smith was there, and he was part of that staff. So he has a footprint, and he kind of knows how to get it done. Just needs some time, and that's what needs to happen. They need to give him some time. Personally, I think you know, the coach prior to Coach Porter just didn't have enough time. COVID hit, a lot of different things happened, and you know, I feel like he didn't have enough time. And Coach Inco is a good guy. He's over at Grafton now, and you see how that program is starting to turn the tide. So him and Maxie Bolton are co-head coaches over there. So those are some things that I was able to see visibly at the game Friday. I'll say this and end with this part. Phoebus is Phoebus. And, you know, Hampton has the academies now. So for the listeners, basically the academies in Hampton it'd be similar to a college type situation. So each high school has at least 5 academies. So you decided to go to VCU. Randy and I decided to go to Virginia Union. When you got to VCU, you had certain departments that you had to pick what department you wanted to be a part of and get your degree out of. So now that's how the high schools are set up. So if you wanted, what did you major in, Mr. Byrd, Coach?
Business administration and management.
So you would go to Kickerton. All right.
Okay.
So you could go to Bethel in the 9th grade. You would zone there because you know where you lived at. All right. But you decide, hey, Phoebus got a better football program. I think that's where I want to go. So your 10th grade year, you can transfer to Phoebus, or you can go right there, right off the jump in the 9th grade.
Wow.
Okay. All right. Now you get one transfer. Say you get to Phoebus in the 9th grade and you don't like it. You get one transfer that won't affect your eligibility. So
wow.
Yeah. So that's
Man,
how
I didn't know it was like that.
Yeah.
Yes.
Yep.
That's how the pendulum has changed in the Hampton City schools. It's good and bad. It's good and bad. But I really believe, you know, that Phoebus is going to be Phoebus regardless. And I'll say that, and that's a good thing. I had the privilege to be the principal there, but I also hired Coach Blunt when I was the principal there. So I'm always rooting for Phoebus. Anytime they get a state ring, I get a state ring. So that's a little selfish to say, but hey, I'll leave it right there.
No.
I got a quick question.
Go ahead.
Sorry, Rusty. What is the enrollment like? Because it just, Phoebus is 3, Hampton's 4, Kickerton and Bethel are 5, Woodside's 5, Warwick's 4. And I know Woodside was 6, but I had heard that Phoebus was in danger of like closing down because it was so low. Is that right?
That's not true as far as I know, but Randy would be able to speak to this as well about the population shift in our area. But I will tell you this, when I was named principal at Phoebus in 2012, Fort Monroe had begun its close down. Actually, they had already begun their close down. And 2012, it closed. So some of those kids, some of the greats that went to Phoebus, and I don't know all the names, but I learned this while I was there. They were military kids, just like how at Woodside, every year Woodside is going to be competitive because I live in the Woodside zone. My middle son went to Woodside. Military's families are going to move into Fort Eustis, which is the Woodside zone, every year. So now you have that kid that comes from a military background. He's disciplined. He's probably physically, you know, somewhat in shape. You know, his parents are in the military. And he's coming there with other experiences from other places. He may have just moved here from Fort Drum or wherever that's in Texas. I don't know all the forts.
Fort Hood.
Fort Hood.
My dad was stationed at Fort Hood in Texas.
Exactly.
And man, that's football crazy down there.
And see,
bro.
you guys moved here. and you were outstanding player, and your brother went on to play pro football. So, you know, Phoebus was the same way. A lot of those state championship teams, a lot of those kids were Fort Monroe kids that were military kids that came to Phoebus because they were zoned there, and they brought all those attributes. They brought other experiences. So then once that base closed, it's just imagine right now if they close Fort Eustis, Woodside's enrollment will go down significantly. So that's what happened. And I actually was a part, I was there when that happened, because when I came to Phoebus, we were 5. By the time I left there, we were 4. Now they're 3.
3, wow.
And we were accredited all 3 years. We did everything we need to do as far as the state. Big P, you understand what I'm saying?
Oh, yeah.
We did everything we need to do to stay accredited. So our school was attractive. We already had some academies there that attracted people before the academies of Hampton hit. But our enrollment went down simply because that base closed, and you know, we weren't able to recover from that as far as our numbers. So yeah, that's a good point you made, Kirk.
Well, let me just say this in case our audience doesn't know. These guys don't just know football; they are high in the education system. Bev just retired, but been a principal. I know Pearson, Randy, you've been principal, your assistant principal. I just know you guys know your stuff. You're not just around it; you're a part of it. So you know. And Bev, you just, bro, when you hit us with that COVID, I hadn't really thought about it in that perspective. It impacted my son, who, as a 9th grader, he's a senior now, 9th. Then that COVID hit going into his 10th grade year, and they couldn't lift. They couldn't do anything. And now some teams weren't supposed to, and they still did. And I won't go into that as much, but I know my son, you know, played his 10th grade year. But then his 11th, and they still were not touching weights. Then he transferred to Bishop Ireton, a private school, that can legally recruit and do all these things. They played in WCAC with the math and all those schools. But this school didn't have the same facilities, and they weren't in the weight room. And so I know his 10th and 11th grade year, he didn't get to lift with the school. Now, we did some things outside of that, but, you know, you're right, man. Like where he is in terms of his development and building. And when we talk about weightlifting, we're not just talking about getting strong, but we're also talking about speed and agility, you know, because that's a lot more about what's going on now in terms of, so Bev, that's why you guys are on the show. You're going to bring that insight that a lot of people aren't going to get. So thank you, sir. That was right on it. Randy?
Hey, I wanted to just piggyback what Bev was talking about when he was talking about Bethel. Bethel also has a strong, silent, winning person over there as their AD, and that's D-Rock. D-Rock Kroom.
Yeah.
D-Rock Kroom. That was my quarterback in high school. And what's crazy is when we went to Union, we played against D-Rock over when D-Rock played quarterback for HU. A lot of people, see, I get into this debate a lot about, you know, the top quarterbacks come out of Hampton High School and this and the third. D-Rock, in my opinion, and people will argue with me, but he was definitely in the top 5, hands down. D-Rock went.
Hey, Vic will say that. Dwight Vic will echo that. Yes.
D-Rock went to HU and started all 4 years. He started as a freshman. D-Rock Kroom. And you look at D-Rock, you would never think that, but he has that. D-Rock, I've been knowing him since junior high school. He has always been a winner. And now that he's become a part of that Bethel, you know, program, Bethel has a bright future, in my opinion, because they have a person like D-Rock that's in the right place.
Right. Why don't we do this? Let's take like the next 5 minutes for the kids who don't want to hear about all this. Let's talk about 6, 5, 4, and 3. And then, Rusty, hold us honest in about 5 or 6 minutes for all the old geezers who, by the way, we watch this stuff a lot longer, double or triple. So that's just as good as a bunch of views. But so Indian River, let's start at 6 because Smith is going to come out of there, right? Okay. So are they going to play up here against Freedom? And Jay Golson and I we're debating that because I think the strength of schedule is right there. I don't think that Freedom necessarily has a bigger, because you guys are playing Indian River, Western Branch, and then Phoebus at the end of the year. And there's another good team in there. So
Kingsport.
Yeah, Kings Fork, great. So, what's your opinion on Smith's biggest challenge outside of Phoebus?
Honestly, in my opinion, you talking about on the way to the state championship, right? Just that whole track.
Through the playoffs, just
well, throughout the playoffs. I mean, you got to give respect to Highland Springs. They're in 6 now too.
No, they're in 5 this year. They're 6 next year.
Oh, they're 5.
Yeah.
Yeah, next year.
Next year.
Next year they're coming. Okay, so well, in that case, then, in my personal opinion, I think the Southeastern District is the toughest district, the most competitive district in the 757 right now. You talk about Kings Fork, talk about Western Branch. Those two teams met this weekend. Scores 14-7. But I already knew that Kings Fork was going to be tough. They were tough last year. And the only person they really graduated was that Virginia Tech commit, the kid that's like about 6'6", play defensive end.
Right.
He's the only one that left. They still had the heart and soul, in my opinion, of that team. What I saw last year was the number 1. They had a number 1. I don't know his name, but he was a heck of a ball player, and he's back. So they have all the tools. We get out the Southeastern District. We play Phoebus. I always give Northern Virginia a lot of respect for the simple fact that, athletically, they might not have the athletes, hand over hand like we do down here in the 757, but they have some very, very good coaching. Those kids in the Northern Virginia, they don't make mistakes. Very disciplined, very well put together teams. They don't make mistakes. A lot of times they're like the Patriots, they wait for you to make a mistake and then they capitalize, So Smith is their only enemy at this point. Even though we're a little young, we're our biggest challenge. All we have to do is do what Coach Scott wants them to do, and they'll be all right.
Right.
So let me bring this up though, Wayne. One of the things I don't see Freedom up here being challenged. Like they blew out Riverbend, they blew out Stonebridge. They've beaten some quality teams, and I think pretty much until they get to maybe the regional final, I don't think they'll be tested. That being said, last year, excuse me, guys, I thought there was great value in Oscar Smith playing the private school from California. Was that Matter Day? Who did they play?
Bosco. St. John Bosco out of
Bosco,
Orange County.
Look, I've coached football for a number of years, and I always get nervous. And I've had 2 teams that went undefeated on the youth football, and I was a middle school football coach who went undefeated. But man, it's hard to coach when your kids don't see anything wrong, And I know I have value when I can look at the film and I'm pointing stuff out. Not that I ever want a loss, but I thought you guys having that loss, even though it was early in the year, gave your coaches, gave them kids something to be a measuring stick and go, hey, we're not, we can be beat. And I thought that helped Phoebus, especially to reset for the playoffs. Any thoughts about that in terms of not being challenged? Because look, that's my fear for Freedom. Like if both of those teams go in there averaging beating people by 50 points, what are they going to do? Mm-hmm. Sometimes the kids get tight, but sometimes some coaches, we saw that last year, some coaches' buttholes get real tight. So what are your thoughts on that?
Well, I think that, I've always said you're only as good as your district is, I looked at Phoebus last year before they played Oscar Smith. I saw them when they played Hampton. And when I saw them, I already knew, I know that the peninsula is down. I mean, that just is kind of what it is. They're down right now for whatever reason. I don't know, little leagues, whatever we want to call it. They're down. And the South Side, just off numbers alone, is always going to be able to have, a little bit more, to choose from. But when I saw Phoebus last year when they played Hampton, I was not impressed at all.
They didn't play well in that game. They did not play well in that game, though.
They didn't play well, but up front, because being a former lineman, that's the first place I look. I want to know what do you look like up front. Mm-hmm. If you have a solid front line, then you can do some things. Running backs can't do anything. without those guys up front, you know. And Phoebus they just didn't impress me at all. I thought they were small, you know, and it showed when we played them. And I try to tell people, you know, I mean, Smith is going to, you know, they're going to do what they have to do to him. So I think the strength of schedule, I think quietly, because the peninsula is down, I think quietly that's what's hurting Phoebus. Sure, they're winning the state championship. And no disrespect, but it's in Division III. If Phoebus was up, in my opinion, in 5, or even if they were in our district at this point, I think Phoebus would be a good 8-2, 7-3 team. That's just my personal opinion.
I honestly think that Division 5, top to bottom, is the toughest.
It is
division in the state of Virginia.
Division 5. Division 5 is the toughest division, the most competitive division in the state right now, hands down. I'll say,
especially because so many of those Richmond teams are 5, and those Loudoun County, Stonebridge, some of those teams.
Yeah, hands down.
And then down there, you know, Kempsville, Green Run.
Yeah,
I think
yeah.
So and now 6 is about to get tougher with Highland Springs moving up and some things. But you're right. Phoebus on the other side of the water might be a little different.
Mm-hmm. I was going to say that, you know, Woodside's a quality program. Warwick, I think, may be undefeated or have one loss. Warwick's undefeated, I believe. And then Bethel is riding the ship. Jeff Super, Kickingham, they're looking a lot better. So, you know, I don't know if the peninsula, the PD, will ever be what it was, because it's just such a pendulum shift. You know, the city of Chesapeake has grown more than any place probably. Well, Northern Virginia is off the chain, but, you know, Chesapeake has had all of that growth. And I was just looking at the census for Hampton and Newport News, and both of them are only 2,000 more than when we were going to school. So, and I hear there's some changes coming for some possible economic development. But let's roll into 5, because Maury played Lake Taylor and was in a blowout. It was a pretty good game, wasn't it, Randy?
Yeah. Well, I didn't keep up with that one. I mean,
it's fairly close.
Yeah, Maury. The one game that I looked at the most was Kings Fort and Western Branch.
Yep.
You know, that was a 14-7 game. You know, I was in the group and I saw a lot of people beating up Western Branch. You know, I gotta say, and I think it was more because some of the fans, they talk a lot of junk. So it was like, y'all got beat. But at the end of the day, I think it was one of those things where 14-7, for anybody who knows football, that's a defensive struggle. You know, I don't think that Western Branch has anything to hang their heads about. You know, they just gave up 14 points. You know,
yeah,
it's not like Kings Fort just dogged them. You know that.
Yeah,
you know, I think it was more people like y'all got beat, that sort of thing. You know, but I still, for our district, I still see Western Branch as a formative opponent when we get ready to play them, because we played them the week before we played Phoebus. And I think that they're going to be all right. We got to take them seriously. We can't take anybody lightly. You know, we got to take 1 week at a time moving in, because honestly, the team, this is not the team we had the last two years, you know.
What about Great Bridge? I see they put it on Lakeland. Now, I don't know how they've done the rest of the year.
Well, Lakeland is just a step above Denby.
Oh, wow. Okay.
To be honest with you.
Okay.
I mean, wow. Yeah, I mean, they're just, you know.
Great Bridge is wrestling.
Yeah. Great Bridge and Grassfield. Those are the wrestlers.
So I was getting ready to say Grassfield, because when I looked at some of the scores, and we talked about this offline a little bit, and we talked about it on Prince William preview, there were some pretty good close games. Like you said, like 14-7 tells me that was a good or a close game. And those teams can play with each other. But when I looked at some of the other scores, now I watched some of the Maury Lake Taylor game online, and that 36-14 score is not indicative of how that game went. It was a lot closer up until the very end. But you guys put up 74 on Hickory, Green Run 62-zip over Princess Anne, Bayside 53-14 over First Colonial, Warwick beat Hampton 43-zip, Deep Creek beat Grassfield 55-zip, Norcom beat Granby 40-zip, War Hill beat Smithfield 42-zip, Great Bridge beat Lakeland 48-zip, Bethel beat Denby 48-zip, Kempsville beat Tallwood 41-6. And one of the things I note that stuck out to me, because we had scores just like that up here this weekend. And I'm going, y'all correct me if I'm wrong, but there clearly was more parity when we were, like, I don't remember anybody, not just not always putting up 50 points, but I don't remember anybody getting beat by 30 points. Do you guys remember that? Like, I don't know, like, I mean, we had our rivalries and Phoebus had a time where they were down, but like, I just don't remember that big of a disparity. Any thoughts on what that could be?
Go ahead, Bill. What you think?
Well, yeah, I see the same thing week in and week out with the disparity in the scores. I think it comes back to, and I don't want to harp on it, but the programs that were already has sustainability, like over the South Side, Oscar Smith, that's a good example. Over here, Phoebus, Warwick, the head coach at Warwick has been there probably about 10 years. So the programs that already had sustainability and were already in motion, I feel like they were able to recover from COVID. This is our first full year where students weren't able really to opt out of school and Zoom because of COVID. So I feel like that's the biggest thing with a lot of these programs. The schools probably that you're naming, those coaches have been in place for probably the last 3 or 4 years. The schools that are getting blown out, those coaches probably haven't been in place. So those things make a huge difference because the kids travel. They're not rusty. When we were in school, me, you, and Big P lived off of Shell Road. I lived in Northampton. You lived in the Northampton area. So that's where we went to high school at. Very rarely did you have kids transferring. Not
that Hampton wasn't recruiting us, but
as Kurt said, I can run down some guys that should have played at Bethel that was in that played at Hampton High, but I'll digress.
But it was much more secretive back then, man. Coaches would turn each other in, and back then, if you transferred, you had to sit out a year. You had to sit out a year.
Supposed to. Yeah. Not the Hampton High though. But
not when Mike Smith was running the state.
You know how I feel about the crab. I love the crab.
Hey, look, I can't even feed into that. But I will piggyback.
This is what they did, Bev. They also do the lines like this around Shell Road, wherever they wanted. How you gonna get Shell Road, part of Phoebus, and get Ty Mill? How can Hampton have that big of a zone, bro?
So Mike Smith would have had Lincoln Park too, because you could almost walk from Lincoln Park to Hampton.
I don't know.
I'm trying to digress, Randy, and I know you're getting ready to go there, and we're trying to keep it with the young people. But I know where the Rocky live. I'll leave it right there.
Well, I'm gonna say this. You said, Bev, you hit it right on the head when you were talking about what the problem is. The problem is, in one word, consistency.
Yes,
when we played, even our junior year, you guys at Bethel, when we played y'all maybe won a couple of games. But when we played you all, that last game, it was always Hampton Bethel thing,
last game, right.
I mean, we barely got out of there against y'all. I don't think y'all had won but maybe 2 games that year. But the key is it was consistency, and that's what's hurting a lot of the programs, getting blown out and that sort of thing. They don't have any consistency in the program, and it's no different. You got inconsistency with coaches, just like you got kids that when we played Mitchfield could be old and whatever, but those kids still went and played for Mitchfield.
That's some great players.
It's loyalty. You know what I'm saying? It's no loyalty anymore. Everybody's looking for the bigger and the better deal, when in all actuality, because everybody wants to go to college, everybody wants offers and all this other type of stuff. But in all actuality, if you're good, if you're that dude, they're going to find you.
Right.
They're going to come get you. Your man that win the second round that plays for the Browns.
Right.
What's his name?
Jeremiah Wusu-Kormor.
Yeah. I mean, he played at Bethel all his years. He didn't, he might have got a few offers here and there, but he played at Bethel. He didn't have to go all over.
You coached him, right, Bev?
I coached him. I coached him his junior and senior year, but I got there sophomore year in January, and he was getting ready to transfer. He was on his way to Bishop Sullivan. his senior year.
Mm.
And you know me, I'm resolute. I'm like, hey, do what you do. And you know, he met with our principal, his mother, wise counsel. He already had 20 offers, and there was no reason for him to leave other than, well, I've already been interviewed and I told it, so this is nothing to even hide. He didn't want to play linebacker. I wanted him to play linebacker. He's in the NFL playing linebacker.
What do you want to play? Safety or defensive end?
He had played corner and safety all his life.
Oh, yeah.
But a 16-year-old what one a 16-year-old wants. He was my best athlete. So I had a position called the Joker. He's called the Joke at JOK in the pros now. And my Joker would be basically his position similar to what I played in college. It's a strong safety. Right. You want to play you on the end. You're basically being moved around. All right. But I used him at the defensive end. If you see him on Sundays, I used him at the mic against Phoebus. I lined him up 5 yards deep so he didn't get caught in the trash. Scrape, go get it. Indian River, we opened up, used him at the defensive end. They were ranked number 2 his senior year in the state. We beat him the first game of the year. He was coming off the edge at the mesh point, just destroying everything. You see him doing that sometimes on Sunday. And then against a team like Denby, I line him up at the safety. So he was that Joker. But I say all this to say, to piggyback on what Randy is saying, he was, again, the generation of kid that, you know, when you're trying to guide them, is not, you're not saying everything they want to hear. So they're quick to run. But he had a strong parent, strong. Mr. Saunders actually was his elementary principal. So Mr. Saunders stepped in. I was resolute. I was like, I'm not running behind a 16-year-old and going to convince him to stay at school. He had already was on his way. And the coach from, well, I won't go in, the Oscar Smith coach was where he was going at that time. Yeah, we're keeping it real. And no harm, you know, that I'm not saying he was recruiting, but another one of my players ended up going over there the next year.
He could recruit. There ain't nothing wrong with recruiting.
Right.
Private school.
Right. So what Randy's saying is so true, because there was grown-ups stepping in and saying, no, this is not good. So I'll cut it short, but I will tell you that when the coach that recruited him to Notre Dame came down to see him, Coach Lee, who is the head coach at Vanderbilt now, he was at Wake Forest. He was so impressed with everything that Jeremiah was doing. When he came on as the defensive coordinator or defensive linebacker coach at Notre Dame, when Kelly took the job, Jeremiah was one of their last signees. They didn't have that position, the hangover safety, before Coach, the coaches at LSU, before he got there.
Kelly.
They created that position, and then they started recruiting for that position. Jeremiah was the second one to play that position, ended up winning the Dick Buckus Award at linebacker. He is a multimillionaire at linebacker. Last year he was all rookie, made all rookie at linebacker. So once again, as Randy said, he had Coach Smith, we had Coach Kaz, we had resolute people, and our parents were resolute.
Absolutely.
God bless his soul. Willie won't gonna let Randy walk over because he didn't like Coach Smith, quit and come over to Bethel. And John Beverly won't gonna let me go over and play at Hampton. And I know your parents were in the school system. You know, you came up missing. You know, so Mr. Lewis and them, they won't plan that. So yeah, it's very, very, very good. But you know, everybody got to do what they need to do for their kids. But I think parenting has changed. The kids are still doing what they do. We did the same thing, Randy, but our parents stepped in and said, no. It's a kid at Northumberland High School in the Northern Neck right now that has the UT commit.
Yep.
Northumberland, single A. They probably got 300 kids in the whole building. But he ain't transferring. That's where he got a scholarship. He's there. He's a UT commit. And he, you know,
that's it.
That's what it is. You look him up. Northumberland High School. They play Middlesex.
Yeah, Middlesex.
Yeah.
My man, Middlesex. Hey, so look, guys, you guys, go ahead.
I was just going to ask Randy. So Green Run and Maury are in two different regions. So they typically play in the semis. Do you like Green Run coming out of there? Or there's Kempsville, there's Woodside.
You know, I'm going to say this. I think Green Run, you know, they rode the wave because they scrimmaged Oscar Smith the very first contest of the season, and they gave Oscar Smith a hard time. You got to understand, Oscar Smith didn't have a quarterback. Then, you know, we were just in disarray right there. But I give that to Green Run. I guess they did pretty good, and they're still doing pretty good. I'm a little partial towards Kempsville because my nephew plays over there. He's one of the offensive tackles. His name is Deacon Rawls. They have a big old line. He's a right tackle.
Yeah, we had their coach on.
Yeah. So that's my nephew. So okay. I'm a little partial to them. Those guys are going to run the football. And I know they lost the Green Run the first game of the season. I'm willing to bet this is going to be a different outcome because they'll see them in the playoffs. Watch out for Kempsville. I think Kempsville is a sleeper. I was on the sideline holding the chains when they scrimmaged Smith. You know, they only ran like about 4 or 5 plays, so you really couldn't get a real visual. They didn't even run to my nephew's side for real. But that running back that they have, he's like a bowling ball, you know, on top of a line. I mean, the line is huge. It's probably the biggest line in the state, to be honest with you. And they come right at you. They're coming downhill every play. I think at this point right now, and you might want to check the stats, I think they've already amassed over 1,000 yards on the ground right now. Right now, at this part of the third game of the season, 1,000 yards on the ground.
Yeah.
Wow.
So I think they got something for Green Run. I think Maury might. I don't know. But
Randy, that takes me where I want to go next. So, man, you guys have blessed us today with your knowledge and just you're just everything that you're bringing to this. So, we're going to wrap this up in a second. We're going to go over your personal top 5. And Randy, we're going to get you to tell us your top 5 on the South Side, and Bev, yours on the Peninsula. And it doesn't matter what division, and it doesn't necessarily have to be the Peninsula District. It can be, you know, York and those Lafayette and stuff. But I will say this, I'm going to give you guys what the top 10 is by Max Preps for the whole 757 region.
They're terrible at ranking teams, though.
Oh, I know. I don't know what they're doing. And the biggest one that sticks out to me is Maury at number 3. Oscar Smith makes sense at number 1. Phoebus is right there. I agree. That's fine for number 2. But they have Maury at 3 at 2-1, and they're only going to play 8 games this year. And they didn't win the state championship. In fact, they're rated over at number 4, Kings Fork. But I'm just going to go ahead on down. And Green Run is 5, Western Branch 6, Lake Taylor 7, Warwick at 8, Kempsville 9, and Lafayette 10. Is there somebody they're missing, or that should or be in maybe a different order? I think Woodside, who is undefeated, could maybe be up in there, and I still just don't get Maury. I mean, I don't know.
Maury's got some talent, but go ahead. Why don't you, Coach Bev? What's your top 5 for the 7-5?
My top 5 over here
on the Peninsula side. Yeah,
on the Peninsula and One Bay River, I have in there as well. Number 1, I have Phoebus. Number 2, I have Woodside. Now, I was going back and forth between Woodside and Warwick, but I've seen Woodside. Woodside has a running back. His name is Rajon Hammonds. And he has a couple Division I offers. I actually did his driving class in my driving school. And he has an offer from Campbell University, 5'11", about 175, 180. He's a track guy. So he's like that running back for the Saints, that long hair type stuff guy.
Oh, come on.
Yeah. That's who he looks like too. And he's gonna grow into that body. And real quiet kid, a native of Middlesex County.
All right, Middlesex, bang, bang.
I know P like that. That's my hometown. If anybody don't, that's where I'm from. That's my people. I moved here when I was 6 years old.
Farmers.
I'm a country boy, and that's where my heart at. So that's why I ain't caring nothing about the Hampton High stuff, Big P. Big P, you make it, Big P. So we gonna keep it.
Yeah, Bev, just so you know, your Middlesex is my Surrey County, and Southampton. My dad, all my family, the Byrds are legendary in Surrey County. So I got a special place in my heart for Surrey County, dog.
Country boy, man. Give me some
right.
red.
The name
red
Hudson Byrd means something in Surrey County. I'm the third. So when they hear Hudson Byrd, they thinking about my grandfather and my dad.
Yes, sir. So at number 2, I have Woodside. Number 3, I have Warwick. Warwick has a Division I kid that he's committed. Capering is his last name. Actually, did his driver's ed course as well. Plus, he played for my youth league, the Tri-City Hurricanes. His name is Capering, John Capering, I believe is his first name. But he's committed to VMI already.
Yeah.
Plays corner. He's a 3-year starter for them. Plays corner and safety. Good kid, academically sound. So, you know, he does a lot of things for Warwick. And Coach Hairston has been there. He's a solid person at Warwick. It keeps them squared away. Then I have Jeff Super over at Kickertan. You know,
I like, yeah.
Yeah. They're doing some things over there, and Kirk knows that zone. That's those kids that if I had to compare anybody to the kids up in your area, you know, some of those kids, big kids, you know, have had some opportunities maybe to attend some camps, and the coaching is solid. Then they're joined with some kids that are tough kids, Lincoln Park type kids, Shell Road, hard-nosed families, and just good people, wholesome people. And he's pulling that all together. But Kickertan historically always had some big kids around there. They just didn't get enough hot sauce with their sandwiches, and I think he might be sprinkling some hot sauce in there now.
All right.
And then lastly, I have Lafayette High School.
Yeah.
You know, Lafayette is not who they were when we played them. You know, they've won. They're just a powerhouse around here. They had a little down year last year, I believe. Fell off a little bit. But that program has always been solid in the last 10, 15 years. And
they won state championship, right?
Yeah, they did. I believe they won one recently.
And they beat Phoebus.
Right.
Yeah.
A few years ago.
But you know, there was Lafayette and Bruton back in our day. And now you got War Hill, you got Jamestown, and then York County's got Grafton, a couple extra. So you know, all those great Lafayette athletes, you know, Lawrence Taylor, Tracy Harrod, Mel Gray, Ron Springs, they're splitting that up, and that's why Lafayette's went down. But Randy,
okay,
wake up. Wake up. Is it past your bedtime?
Oh, no, I'm good.
You already took the Geritol. It's all right.
Here we go.
Who you got? 757 Southside.
I'm gonna go the opposite way. I'm gonna give my number 5 like they do on ESPN.
All right.
I'm gonna give my number 5. My number 5 is Kingsport.
Okay.
That the coach over there, who was my frat brother, who was our frat brother, he is doing an outstanding job. He actually is from the Coach Scott tree. He was the defensive line coach under Chris Scott, you know, at Smith. So he's gone now. He's creating something over there at Kingsport. So I'm gonna give Kingsport number 5. Kempsville is my number 4. You know, I just think that they got something special over there. I see them. I really see them doing some serious things. You know what I'm saying? It's going to come down to the wire between them and probably Green Run. My number 3 is Maury. Now, I'm going to tell you why I say Maury, and this goes to your question, Rusty. You have Maury, even though they might not be what we think they are or whatever right now, you have to give them that respect just because of what they've done. You know, you have to acknowledge them. You know what I'm saying? And I think that's what's going on in that poll that you're looking at. You can't not have Maury in there. Maury has been they won a state championship a couple years ago, and they were there last year. They should have won it last year, honestly. You know what I'm saying? So they're consistently in the mix when it comes to state championships. So you have to give them, just out of respect alone, unless they just just really blow a gasket, you got to acknowledge it. And then I'll give Green Run number 2. Now I'm gonna tell you something about Green Run. Green Run, I want to see how well they're going to sustain what they've got now. They're good. They had all of this, all these high flyers last year for Green Run, and now these kids are seniors or whatever. But I'm gonna see how consistent they're going to be. Because Green Run right now is riding a little high. But I'm telling you, I think Kingsfield is going to take Green Run out, in my personal opinion, in Division 5. And of course, Smith. Smith. I just think Smith has they have the winning ways. Smith knows how to win now. They have a championship coaching staff. A lot of people don't like Smith, and that's okay. But you got to respect them just because that they win. And like I said, they have a championship coaching staff, and Chris Scott is instilling what winning is all about. I mean, he's not perfect. No coach is perfect. No person is perfect, but he knows football, and he knows how to get those kids motivated. And when you start winning, then it becomes a part of who you are. And that's what's happening over there.
Smith reminds me a lot of Hampton, because Hampton, your high profile guys, Robert Banks, Linwood Lumpkins, just the Ronald Curry, but top to bottom, Smith has really good athletes. Maybe the guys, maybe they're not going to play college ball, but they're really good football players.
It's the South Norfolk. It's the area. It's the South Norfolk. This is where we live, in South Norfolk. It's almost like the Shell Roads, equivalent to the Shell Roads, the Pine Chapels, the Sprinkle of the Tide Mills. It's that type. That's what South Norfolk is. That's where a lot of athletes come from that go to Smith. Smith has been winning for years. When Morgan started it all, he started it off. Right. You got to understand, they played Westfield. A lot of people don't talk about Westfield. Westfield won a state championship 4 years in a row.
Very good.
I think a couple of those games was against Smith.
Three.
That was
those games,
Sean Glennon,
overtime.
Eddie Royal. Those were some serious teams.
That's what I'm saying. Smith was always representing this area in the early 2000s, and still representing. So Smith. Aaron
Kenny, who went to Penn State, played for the Redskins.
Yeah, they have a lot of tradition. So, it's just what it is. So I'm going to say that's my top 5.
All right, Rusty.
Now,
knock it out.
So this is what we're going to, you and I, well, you don't have to, I'm going to go top 10. So I'm going to mix the whole area. All right. I'm going to, and I'm going to start 1 to 10 just because we know Oscar Smith is there, but I think I'm going to surprise some people along the way. We'll see. But I got number 1, Oscar Smith. I totally agree with that. Until Freedom beats him in the playoffs. Phoebus is going to run the table. We'll see what happens against Oscar Smith. Number 3, I got Green Run. They're undefeated and they've beaten some quality teams. Number 4, I got Kings Fork. Kings Fork, they're undefeated and they played a really good schedule thus far. And in a tough district. Number 5, I have Kempsville. Kempsville's only losses to Green Run, but a lot to what Randy's saying, and we had the coach on. Man, anybody to me that can run the ball. I know everybody's trying to play flag football and everybody's spreading. I was saying, look, man, I played flag football for the last 20-some years, 25 years. And I was telling people back then, I said, when they started switching to this, I was like, the pros in college, they just playing flag football. That's what we did. We spread it out and we just had everybody run the slants and nines. But I tell you what, my flag football team, we ran the option because I was an option quarterback at Bethel. Me and Russell Arrington, we ran the option. But anyway, so number 5, I got Kempsville. Number 6, I got Woodside. I have Maury at 7, Lake Taylor at 8. Lake Taylor's only loss is to Maury. And then I've got Warwick at number 9 and Lafayette at 10. So I was able to get a couple of peninsula area teams in there with Phoebus, Woodside, Warwick, and Lafayette.
Yep, that's good. So it's funny because I have, for this peninsula, I've got Bev's exact same. Phoebus, Woodside, Warwick, Kicktown.
You copied off your paper, Will.
No, I wrote it before he did. And then
copied off your paper.
Overall, I've got Smith, Phoebus, Green Run, Maury, Kings Fork. But then for the South Side, I got Smith, Green Run, Maury, Kings Fork, and Kempsville. I think Randy had Kempsville 4th and Kings Fork 5. So,
Right.
and I'm just going to say overall, I'm predicting Smith in 6. I'm not buying the Northern Virginia stuff. Not that there's anything wrong with Northern Virginia. I just people are underestimating Smith because they lost Kaiser and the tailback to Norfolk State.
Smith will not be in the final game.
Yeah,
They're going to lose to either Patriot or Freedom in the semis.
Nobody's touching Highland Springs. So in 5. I like Verina in 4. Kings Fork, if they're lined up. And then Phoebus in 3. But I would
I might caution you a little bit, Kirk. I'm just not on Highland Springs. I'm just not sold. I'm not sold just yet on Highland Springs of now. And I'm gonna tell you why. We lost to Highland Springs a few years ago.
Man, they got 30-year-olds on that team.
In actual, when Highland Springs was winning, they had a factory going, right?
Mm-hmm.
And we were supposed to play them out when Randall and them were sophomores. All right. The only reason we lost to them, and we lost by like a touchdown, we had almost 200 yards in penalties. And that's when Ethan and Kevon and Caleb, all those guys that just graduated were babies. And they barely got out of there. We were supposed to play Highland Springs that COVID year, but COVID hit, and we went. Then that's when it went into the spring. I guarantee you, we would have drug them then, and I know we would have drug them last year. If we had played them in place of Bosco, we would have drug Highland Springs. I promise you that. Because I'm gonna tell you why. Because I just don't think that they are that Richmond area is that good. I just don't think it's that good.
I'm gonna tell you, Randy, I don't know, bro. Richmond area.
The private schools, man. Trinity, those private schools are loaded. Richmond is not hurting for talent.
Hold on, man. I'm gonna tell you, I totally agree. Years ago, Richmond schools weren't doing much in football or basketball, but right now, Highland Springs, man. Look, them and Verina, they got that little region of Henrico County, and they getting everybody, and it's a lot of talent there. The other thing is this: Highland Springs. I don't know about those early, but I saw Highland Springs last year against Stonebridge in the semis, and they should have won that game with some bad officiating. But Highland Springs was young, and their quarterback was a sophomore, and a lot of same football players helped them win the basketball state championship. Highland Springs right now, from what I've heard, I was covering the Freedom Stonebridge game, and Matt Hatfield was there from Virginia Preps, and he thought that Highland Springs was the best team, period, in the state of Virginia. And I think overall, Max Preps might have them. They may have overtaken Oscar Smith. But a lot of people think Highland Springs is the class of the whole state. Now, we don't know because they won't get to play this year. But next year, Highland Springs and Oscar Smith, they can't both make it to state. Somebody got to get out of that region. So that's going to be fun to see.
We'll take one year at a time. I'm going to see what they're going to do in 5.
I think Smith. I'm sorry. I think Smith will beat Highland Springs next year. They lose 3 guys to Power 5 schools. Again, I don't want to overemphasize because our boy Jay Golson falls in love with the team with that Power 5 guys.
Good for Highland Springs because we know Bethel's going to win the 5 next year. It don't even matter. So Bethel's going to win 5 next year. So Highland Springs is lucky they getting out. But look, hey guys, you have blessed us. This has been so much fun.
Yep.
Man, we're gonna have to do this much more often. I'd like to say we can do it weekly, but we'll see how everybody's schedules balance out. But you guys brought it, you know your stuff. And look, I want to take this time to give you an opportunity. Is there anything you want to promote? Coach Bev's driving school, you want to promote that?
Coach Bev's
anything, your church, if it's your church, if it's your community, your school, give you this time right now. Is there anything you want to talk about or promote?
Well, first of all, I just want to say once again, thank you all for having us. It was fun. Hopefully we were able to help, give a different perspective. Both Randy and I both are, we've been here. We in the community, we in the schools, so we see, what's going on. And like him, I have 3 boys. So my kids, are gone. You know, they're done with the football in this area, but I'm well connected and still, you know, around those kids. As I mentioned earlier, I'm semi-retired. I have a driving school, Coach Beverly's driving school. Our phone number is 757-660-6852, and we're full service driving school. We do everything from 3 times fail for adults as well as youth. If you can't pass the driver's ed test, we help you pass that. We give you the certificate you need to go back and retake it. We do behind the wheel as well as 36-hour to get your green card and everything in between. We do driver's improvement. If you guys are rushing to a game, Mr. Byrd, Mr. Kirk, and you get a ticket, and you need to get that ticket taken care of before you
I
get
need
to
it now. I might hit you up.
you give me a call and we'll get you squared away with what you need with so the judge will be pleased to know that you took your driver's improvement class. So I thank y'all for the opportunity to speak on that. Coach Beverly's driving school.
Bev,
Yes, sir.
Nobody gets it right the first time. 757 660 6852. Do you have a website?
Yes. Coach Beverly drivingschool.com.
All right. Coach Beverly, is that L-Y or E-Y? Because we all know
L-E-Y, and thank you for adding that. L-E-Y, and we're also on the DMV website.
All right.
So you can go on
Coach Beverly Driving School. It's Beverly with an E-Y, which, by the way, that's one thing with these computers now.
Just Google it.
Right.
It'll find them. It ain't
All
a
right.
whole lot of Coach Bell's driving schools in Hampton.
Bev, where did you get your brand?
It's a new thing, Kirk.
Where did you get your brand, man? Why did they have to brand y'all? That's why it's bell around your neck, man.
Ask my frat brother Randy Pearson.
Yeah.
It's there.
Hey, Kirk,
Where is it?
It's there.
Where's
Mike
yours,
can see it
Randy?
through the
I
shirt.
see Randy's. I used to work with this dude. I used to work with this dude.
I did want to point this out. Now, Bev, we have joked about this because Bev had muscles in the 5th grade. All right.
Go ahead,
But
man.
Bev, y'all know this brother is been a monster in the weight room. But when I say what's been the biggest thing going on, he said COVID and weightlift. I'm like, you ain't never gonna have enough weightlifting under Coach Bev, man. But no, I love it though, man. No, I'm glad you brought it up, but it's true. And I know because you've been dedicated to it throughout your life. And it was a priority when we were at Bethel, you know.
That's right.
And even in your, our age, you're holding it down, bro. But that is key. That's big.
That's a blessing.
Randy. Yeah, oh yeah.
I appreciate you guys giving me the opportunity again to be up here and share my thoughts. You know, my biggest thing is, I just want to see the kids compete. And one thing I would like to say to any parent that, we talked about this the other night, any parent that has a child that's thinking about going to school, ask them the one question that's so important, that if they want to play sports, that if sports were to stop for them tomorrow, would they still want to be at that school? Because I don't care what you do in high school. I don't care how many offers you got or any of this other crap. If it's not a right fit, it's going to be tough on you. And what you did in high school is not going to mean a hill of beans in college, because there's a lot of guys like my son who will walk on, who have one thing in mind, come to get your money. So you got to make sure that it's the right fit for you.
Absolutely.
Wherever you go to school. Don't let all these other people sway you to go here and go there, because football can stop for you in an instant. And now what? So make sure that that's where you want to be, even if football is something that's not going to be, a part of your agenda.
That's right. And Bev, I know your boys played football in college, and Randall's at Virginia State, and I got a son who's a senior. And so we're going through that process now, and that's something his mom and I have consistently mentioned to him. If it don't work out, you get hurt or you just whatever.
Yeah.
Like, are you gonna stay at that school? Would you stay there? So that's great advice, bro. I really appreciate it. Y'all, look, these guys are kicking knowledge. Now, they're people now, those things are on point, but we do welcome feedback on the Hampton Roads High School football Facebook page. We welcome feedback in the YouTube channel comments. And we want to hear, how right Bev and I are and how wrong Kirk and Randy are. They don't have that brewing blood flowing through them, so they don't know football like we do. Randy, you were just part of a system. I mean, Bev carried you at Union, man. Come on, I know.
Hey,
all right.
you picking Kempsville to come out of the Green Runs district. That's going to chatter across, and then and then the Highland Springs people where that's
I'm not sold on Highland Springs because they didn't finish.
Right.
They didn't finish last year.
They look. You should have saw them in basketball. Rusty.
Well, I'm not a
They
basketball
look
player.
like grown ass men. I mean,
They were.
I'm not sold.
Dudes got
they
hair
didn't
on their
finish.
backs, man. I'm serious.
Randy, Highland Springs recruit better than Oscar Smith. I'm gonna tell you that right now.
86% of their
Yeah, we do.
86. It's like 84 or 86.
Gotta finish.
They rent, so they can move in and out of there.
Got to finish.
Yeah. No, but look, guys, this has been a blessing. Thanks again so much.
All right.
We're gonna definitely have to have y'all on again, and this is more than we ever imagined. So great stuff, Kirk. I'm glad you're back. Kirk's been out for work, and he's back on the East Coast. And so my partner. This is in crime. This has been a blessing, and let's keep this thing going. We do this because all of us love what we grew up in Hampton,
right.
Virginia. We love the community. We love Dollar Stadium, but we love what it made us men. The rivalry we had with Hampton is all good. Like it was a rivalry, but I still got love for the Pearsons and the Rocky Coombs and the Craig Overtons and the Mike Alexanders, the guys who played with me. I used to battle against Bev when he was at Northampton. Then I played for Northampton when he went on off to high school and played. But look, again, this is what it's all about, man. We're sharing our experiences, and we're letting people know how much this game and sports have blessed us. So thanks again, Kirk. Any last words?
No, I mean,
good.
you couldn't.
It's been the Kirk and Byrd
No.
Show. We are out.
I said no, but it was yes. Four guys from Hampton was not going to be able to keep one under an hour. So thanks, everybody. All right, guys.
All right,
appreciate you.